Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We're excited to have one of our partners joining us, AvidXchange. And presenting today from AvidXchange is Rhonda Green, and she's going to be talking about 3 pillars of truly impactful AP automation. And I know you're all eager to get started with this presentation. So before we begin, as a reminder, we are recording this webinar and we will post it to our on-demand webinar library for you to review again or share with anyone. And if you do have any questions along the way, please feel free to type them into the questions box and we will get them answered during our Q&A time at the end of our session. So now I'm going to pass it on over to Rhonda to kick off our presentation.
Thank you, Angie. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Rhonda Green, and I'm a Principal Solutions Consultant here at AvidXchange. But prior to coming over to Avid, gosh, I've been here over 9 years now. I actually was a long-time AP manager, managing very large AP departments for different companies over the years. And so AP and AP automation in particular is something that's always been very near and dear to my heart. So as we walk through this today, I'm hoping that you will gain some great insights into some of the benefits of AP automation. And we're also going to talk about 3 pillars of truly impactful AP automation, how AvidXchange raises the bar, and then at the end, we'll have Q&A. So current pain points for B2B payment management, and we definitely hear this from all of the different folks that we talk to out on the road and through surveys, et cetera. But the most prominent things that we hear is, fraud risk. Manual AP processes are definitely prone to fraud. Lack of visibility, particularly if you are not working remote, or if you are working remote and you're not operating in the cloud, you don't have access to your invoices or your payment information, so that definitely causes a lack of visibility. Also, manual tasks are inaccurate and error prone. And they're just cumbersome. I remember back in the day when everything was 100% manual, and with automation, the time savings alone was just exponential. So I hope that you'll take something away from this presentation today and look into automation. So conventional benefits of AP automation. So of course, I think we always think about less paper. So high paper volume is commonly cited as the biggest pain point. And again, with paper, things get lost. Has anyone seen that invoice? I'm pretty sure I took it down and put it on Tim's desk. I didn't get it back, I don't think, et cetera. Also, cost savings. The cost to process a single invoice can be reduced 60 to 70%. And also just the time savings. Per Goldman Sachs, AP professionals spend about 30% of their time collecting data and fielding inquiries related to these invoices and payments. And, AvidXchange, we actually took a poll, a survey, if you will, and 57% of those respondents cited that high paper volume as their biggest pain point. And then in that same survey, 64%, again, the highest, said the greatest improvement offered by AP automation was that drastic reduction in paper. So we're definitely happy to hear about that. But really, think about the hard costs associated with processing paper payments, for instance, and that includes the cost of checks, envelopes, postage. These costs really add up over time. And if you think about also the soft costs that are associated, time is money, and companies are paying for hours of employee time dedicated to manual data entry and workflow approval. So again, with that Goldman Sachs estimate of total cost, wow, and total time spent, it really, really adds up. So we're going to take a quick poll question.
All right, Rhonda, I have that up. What benefit is most important to you in deciding to automate your AP processes, and choose from one of the following below. And we'll go ahead and share those tallies. Okay, we can go ahead and launch that response. And it looks like we have about 33% for the cost savings, saving time, and better visibility.
Love that. And that sounds about right. It's in line with what we hear when we're, out and about talking to people in the field. So great. So thank you, everyone, for taking the time to answer that. So now let's talk about 3 differentiators that take AP automation above and beyond conventional benefits. So seamless integration and accessibility. What is good about an AP solution? Obviously, if it doesn't integrate with your accounting software, then, obviously that's a huge issue right out of the gate. But there's definitely technology to leverage. And API integrations is probably the biggest one right now. It's the ability to talk with your accounting software. APIs dramatically cut the amount of software that needs to be developed and to be connected to your accounting system. So they also allow for things like PO matching, both 2- and 3-way. It allows for things like being able to index multiple invoices into a single PDF. And also AutoSync, master data, allowing for growing organizations to scale. I mean, when we think about the importance of having those seamless integrations, it's really to your benefit, because you're working really with one large system, if you will. There are, obviously 2 separate systems, but the way that they do talk back and forth, AvidXchange just becomes an extension of your accounting system. Also, mobile capabilities that allow your team to produce from anywhere. Instead of, having to depend on that controller or CFO being in the office to sign checks, that goes away, because now they're able to approve invoices or approve payments from anywhere, as long as they have access to the internet. And also artificial intelligence and machine learning. These are, somewhat new things that we're learning about, but they're, able to very much streamline operations. Most people see AI and machine learning as a strategic priority. AI improves AP processing because it automatically sets spending levels, for example, or notifies approvers, even matches POs. AI allows for invoices to be processed much faster. And then improving OCR capabilities. And OCR is definitely something that's been around for quite some time now, optical character recognition. And that's basically where it will take an invoice, if you will, that's scanned in, and it will pull information off of that invoice. But things can definitely go wrong. Maybe it's a handwritten invoice, or there's something that's maybe not in the proper format for it to be able to pick up. So over time, OCR has definitely made a lot of improvements. I know it doesn't seem like maybe 10 years ago or so, we were talking about OCR maybe being successful about 60% of the time, and now that has drastically improved. So with all of these tools, technology basically has helped be able to even take your automation to the next level. So I'm going to talk real quick about a company that is using AvidXchange, Terra Holdings. And one of the biggest things that they found out once they implemented and started using the solutions is that they now have the flexibility to work remotely. And again, AP is not that typical department that you think about as one that, you know, can work remotely. But of course, last year with the pandemic, a lot of companies were forced to make decisions kind of on the fly. I've talked to many people that said, you know, their AP process was kind of dead in the water for a while until they figured out, you know, we're going to have to send someone into the office once a week to cut checks or to pick up the mail. So that's definitely things that AvidXchange can help with and help Terra Holdings with. So they were able to process between 1,000 and 2,000 more invoices a month. They saw a 33% increase in speed of invoice processing, and through payment automation, they saw timely payments that maybe they weren't necessarily seeing before in a manual process. So Terra Holdings is one of America's largest privately held real estate services company that provides property management services for several high-end residential buildings. And I think that they found that leveraging AvidXchange, both the invoice and the payment automation, really gave them that flexibility and that visibility that they needed, especially for their team to work from home. So next, of course, when we talk about AP automation, we're always thinking about things like ROI, scalability. So these are some of the things, again, some of the top things that people have cited to us in surveys that we've talked to is just making sure that things like multi-entity workflows and approval process, they need that ability to continue, because today they may have 3 or 4 people that are approving one invoice, but again, they're maybe utilizing email to get that done. And so now software allows you to define those different workflows, and it can, again, be based on your current process. So you could be talking about things like department or office or company. So again, it gives you what you need in order to maintain your current process, but again, in an automated fashion. Also, information security and risk mitigation, centralized AP processes that provide that clear visibility and make it easier to monitor for fraudulent activity. Again, you're not worried about missing invoices because you're not dealing with that paper any longer. And also with payment automation, incentive-based payment options and rebates is a big thing to consider. E-payments can, for example, like MasterCard and direct deposit, they can generate incentives and rebates. And I think a lot of times people don't think about that. We see a lot of times that the rebates and incentives that can be earned on the payment side can greatly go to reducing the cost on the invoice side. And we even see quite a few clients that end up, you know, with a net positive where their AP has become a profit center. And also, finally, user and transaction fees meant for scale. User and other fees can add up as your company and finance department grow. So things like AvidXchange, you'll note that we don't charge per user license. So if you need to have, you know, many people, many end users that need access to the software, there's not a charge per user. So obviously things like these allow for that maximum ROI and scalability. So if you're growing and maybe you were looking to add headcount in the future, with AP automation, you'll find that you may not need to add that additional headcount, that it's really going to take that much time savings and give it back to you. All right, let's look at the kind of another customer and see their experience. And this is the Archdiocese of Denver. They're comprised of 148 parishes and churches, plus elementary schools, high schools, religious communities, etc. And they found out that they became much more efficient. They are saving 15 to 30% of time on inputting and tracking invoices. They became at least 20% more efficient. And they loved having that 24/7 visibility. Because again, as long as you have access to the internet, you'll have access to your invoice and payment data. So you'll be able to research things from anywhere. And so they found that, they had a lot of savings, and they loved the fact that Avid Invoice and Avid Pay integrated with their Sage Intact accounting system. And they found that all of their information was more accurate now, and all the days that they spend and hours that they spent inputting invoices were drastically reduced. And we'll talk about that in a minute when we talk about the invoice product itself. Superior service and support. So again, customers, buyers, suppliers should feel like they have an ally in an AP automation solution. And so support teams should be available immediately and whatever works best for you. So they should be able to contact you via chat, phone, mail. Also, suppliers should be treated as customers, which is what we do here at AvidXchange. Also, when it comes to onboarding, they should be giving multiple payment options from which to choose. And that is definitely one of the benefits of working with AvidXchange, is that vendors are no longer tied to just receiving one payment method. They're in control over receiving the payment method of their choice. But we have these really superior service teams that support the entire invoice to payment process. They're here to not only onboard, but continued customer success. They're here to help with any questions, any issues, always fast, efficient response time with a 24-hour SLA. And again, we view your suppliers as extensions of you. So we view them as our customers too, and absolutely treat them as such. So now let's talk about AP automation with AvidXchange. So our software and services transform the way companies process their invoices and payments. And just to kind of recap what we've gone over so far, the mobile-friendly interface allows that remote capability that you may not have today. Also promotes scale. So if you're growing, you can definitely grow with AvidXchange, and a lot of times no need to add additional headcount. AvidXchange utilizes AI and machine learning in combination with that human support element that's ensuring that that data is captured correctly. And we have hundreds of supplier service and support teammates, as I mentioned. They're focused exclusively on working with you and your suppliers to give you that white glove experience. And then again, those multiple payment options for your vendors to choose from, which definitely minimize fraud and maximize those rebates. So the two solutions themselves, the invoice process and the payment process. So this is probably, when you look at this kind of before automation slide, this is probably what you envision a manual AP process to look like. This may be something that you're experiencing today, where the invoices come in, someone's having to open them, and then someone's having to code them. A lot of times you might actually be writing the GL code on the invoice itself. Someone is routing them around for approval, either maybe via email or actually walking them into someone's office. Someone is having to capture that information. So they're doing that manual data entry. And then on the payment side, once those invoices become due for payment, you'll go through that selection process. You'll have to cut those checks or process those ACHs. You'll have to do all of that manual work associated on the payment side, including the bank reconciliation. And so, as you can imagine, you see multiple steps here of what a manual process looks like. And then this is what your process can look like after automation. So we took those many steps and boiled them down to 3. So with AvidXchange, you are just left with the most important business decisions that you would obviously still be in control of, and that's coding. So things like your chart of accounts will be uploaded into AvidXchange. So when you are coding the invoices that we've captured for you, you will have your same chart of accounts there. We will actually set up and configure the portal to your current needs. You'll also be able to approve from anywhere. And again, if you need multiple approvers in the workflow, we can accommodate that. So you're still going to approve those invoices and then authorize for payment. So at the end of the day, you're still deciding which invoices are going to be paid and when. So again, you don't see on here manual data entry. You don't see opening of the mail. You don't see having to scan any invoices in, so that you can email for approval. Really takes all those manual tasks and just boils them down to these 3. So how does AP and payment automation work? Well, we will actually create PO boxes for invoices that are still received via mail. We will also create email addresses to be able to receive those images, invoice images for you. So no more managing paper mail. So when you're going through onboarding, we'll work with you to notify your vendors of a new location, a new PO box to send those invoices, or a new email address, which we'll manage. And then we'll get those invoices captured, meaning that we're going to capture the invoice image itself, but also all the header information from that invoice. So things like vendor address. As a matter of fact, we will also upload your vendor master file into AvidXchange so that, we're working with your approved vendor list. And if an invoice comes in for a vendor that's not on the list, well, then that invoice goes into an exception queue for you to manage. So again, it's very flexible online invoice approval process. Someone's going to receive a notification letting them know that they have invoices to approve. They'll go in and authorize those invoices, code and approve, and then the payment process will begin. And again, full visibility into your payments. And then, of course, invoices and payments are all posted to the accounting system. Your accounting system is your system of record. With AvidXchange, we actually have several different products based on, kind of our client's needs. So, based on your needs, we'll determine which is the best way to go as far as integration, again, giving you that flexibility. And then again here, just to kind of expand on what I just talked about, as you can see here, we're taking the post office kind of out of the equation for you. We're getting that data. You're setting up your workflows. You're the one that knows what your policies are in terms of approvals and thresholds and those sorts of things. We're just setting it up in an automated fashion. You're still in control over selecting which invoices are going to be paid and when. But we're actually going to give your vendors payment options so that they have several payment methods to choose from. And then again, your accounting system of record, all of that payment detail is in your accounting system. So it's as if you've cut checks yourself. I am notorious for talking ahead of my slides. Please forgive me, but as you can see here, this is more of talking about those invoices being received and captured, and then the approvals, of course, and you'll always have visibility into your invoices. These are, obviously approved invoices linked to the payments as we've discussed. And then, of course, integration with your accounting system. And we actually integrate with over 180 accounting systems, including NAV and Dynamics 365 BC. So we are already working with clients that have these accounting systems and use them. So the integration is already complete. So as far as onboarding goes, we usually have folks onboarded within 45 days. You will be assigned a project team that will work with you to get all of these things, like we talked about, uploading your chart of accounts, uploading your vendor master file, all of these things. We'll work with you, we'll train you on them, and then you will be good to go. So let's talk a little bit about some security features that we have. Each user has their own user profile, username and password. Each user will be assigned to specific roles, which is very important because, as you, maybe have multiple different departments, you don't necessarily want to see, someone to be able to see other departments. And so you can restrict access based on the role. So that, again, who has access to what. And there's also a complete audit history for each invoice and for each payment. So you're going to be able to see the life cycle of your invoice and payment from the time the invoice is captured all the way through the time that it is integrated back to your accounting system. And then on the payment side, from the time that the payment was created all the way through the cleared payment. And there's also an option for setting up multi-factor authentication for login verifications, which again, our onboarding team would go through all of this information with you. And so AvidPay, that's the payment side of the house. And again, we really shine here because we were one of the first in the payment space to create that supplier network where we work directly with suppliers. And as a result of that, we currently have, this slide is now actually out of date, we have well over 700,000 vendors that are submitting invoices and receiving payments each month through our network. And again, we're offering your suppliers various payment methods. So they're going to be able to choose from a virtual card, which is run through the MasterCard rails, one-time single-use 16-digit card number, AvidPay Direct, which is our enhanced direct deposit, and then finally the pay per check. If a vendor says, hey, I just want to check, then that's fine. Then we'll cut the check, we'll stuff the envelope, we'll mail it out, taking those manual tasks off of your plate. And typically, like I mentioned, we see average day one supplier coverage of 30%. We work with all of the big utility suppliers out there, over 4,000. We have over 200,000 e-payment suppliers already enrolled. And again, all of this, it's really the power of the network that drives that 40% on average e-payment adoption. So again, you're still deciding which invoices you want to pay. You send us that approved payment file, and then we literally take it from there. So it's almost like revolutionary, if you will, because again, you're used to having to cut those checks, fold them up, stuff them in envelopes, but now you're sending that file to us, and then we literally are taking it from there, and we're supporting it all the way through. And then this is just a quick visual of how it works. Again, the accounting system's generating the payment. We're receiving that payment data from your accounting system. You have the ability to approve the payments, which is optional. You may or may not choose to do this because You may have a very robust invoice approval process, so you don't have a secondary payment approval, but if you do, that's fine. You can absolutely do that. We will then pull money from your existing bank account. No need to set up new bank accounts. We'll actually initiate individual ACH debits for each one of your payments. We'll create those payments to the vendors. Then they're all sent out within 2 business days. So we're mailing out checks, we're emailing vendors with secure virtual card information, etc. And then actually at the end of the day, your bank rec process becomes much easier for you. Instead of ticking and tying each month, did this check clear, did that check clear? Now every payment will be cleared, and I'm using air quotes here, because we have already pulled that money from your bank account. So that traditional bank reconciliation process will go away and just become more of a review process for you, because our AvidPay portal gives you complete visibility into all of your payment information. So you'll know, again, when the payment was issued, when it cleared. So after automating, you can expect things like streamlined processes and approvals, a centralized location for all of your invoices, increased visibility into both your invoice and payment information, accurate reporting with a click of a button, and increased fraud protection. All of the payment methods that go out through the AvidPay network are all very safe. For instance, paper checks are all covered under payee positive pay. All of the virtual cards go through the MasterCard network, so they're covered by all of the same protections our personal cards are. So it really does give you increased fraud protection. So now we're going to take some time for Q&A.
All right, Rhonda, thank you very much. We do have a couple of questions for you. The first question is there a limit to the number of users that can use the solution?
No, there is no limit. We have some customers that have over 100 users. They actually give users out in the field access to the information as well. And they can, because again, we don't charge for user license. So it makes it a very cost-efficient solution.
All right, thank you. And can I still print checks?
Absolutely. You never lose the ability to continue to cut checks and how we all have that vendor that shows up, looking for a paper check. You're actually in control over deciding which payments come to the AvidPay network and which ones you want to keep in-house. So absolutely.
Okay, and one last question that I see, if anybody has any additional questions that you would like to get answered, please go ahead and type them into the questions box and we can have Rhonda answer them. The last question is, can you expand on the virtual card? How is that different from an ACH?
So sure. So a virtual card is just a MasterCard number. It's a 16-digit MasterCard number. It's not a tangible card, so it doesn't work like a P card would, for example. It is actually created for a specific payment. So let's say you send us a payment to Staples for $50.10. We're going to create a 16-digit MasterCard number that is payable to Staples for $50.10. And once they have processed that payment through their merchant account, then that card number actually expires. So extremely secure. There's no accounting on the back end, if you will, like a traditional P card program. So it's, it's a much speedier process. And again, vendors want to get paid fast and they want to get paid securely, and that's one of the best options for them.
All right, Rhonda. Well, that looks like we have answered all the questions that have come through. If anybody has any additional questions that you would like to get answered, please feel free to reach out to Rhonda or your account manager here at Inovia Consulting, and we would be more than happy to address those questions with you. So Rhonda, thank you for presenting today, and for everyone on our webinar, or if you're watching on demand, we thank you for taking the time out to join us.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
And to let you know, we do have new training workshops for you and your team members to attend. You can visit our training workshop page at inovia.com/workshops for more information and to register for the training workshop that fits your role. And we do have more webinars coming up. Next Tuesday, we have one of our employees, Nick Anzano. He's going to be presenting on the benefits of automating Business Central tools and techniques. And then on the 18th, we have one of our partners, Dynamic Web, and they will be presenting on improving buyer experiences with e-commerce for manufacturers and wholesalers. So check out our website for more of our upcoming events, and that's inovia.com/events. And don't forget, we do have our podcast going on. It's called the Inovia Conversation. And our hosts, Steve Waltz and Jeff Progolski, have a lot of podcasts that you can listen to. So check out that selection and subscribe so you'll get notified when those new episodes air. And that's inovia.com/podcast. And fall is approaching, and that means conference time in our world. And Inovia Consulting is proud to be a proud sponsor of the International Food Service Distributors Association Conference, otherwise known as IFDA. And that's scheduled for September 12th through the 14th in Fort Worth, Texas. And then we are also sponsoring Dynamic Con, which is going to be September 20th through the 23rd, and that is virtual. And we have one more conference that we're sponsoring, Community Summit, which is in October. And you can find out more about all of those conferences at inovia.com/conferences. So check out that page and get registered for any of those conferences. And please let us know if you have any questions that we can help you with. All right, everyone. Well, we thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon on another Inovia webinar. Take care, everyone. Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you.